Salutations and blessings to all my gracious people out there in Hell I Don't Know land. Today is a great day. It's the holidays, but I had the opportunity to pull in a fellow podcaster, fellow vet. So it's going to be a great day in conversation. We both thank you all for your support. Before you start sending us those messages about thank you for your service, we thank you for your support. Let me get that out of the way up front. We're going to take a little time today to talk about podcasting, talk about media groups. I'm interested in creating my own media group. This fellow has a media group that he's created, so we're going to talk to you all about what it takes to do that. Also, what it takes to be, you see, we're black people in this thing, so what it takes to, yeah, even last I checked, it's what it takes to be a man inside of this business. Just a few things that comes to mind to let you all know that it can be done. It can be done. But first, I want to start off with asking the young man to my right or left, whichever way y'all see him. How are you doing mentally?
Well, I want to just start off the conversation with just, preface. Thank you for allowing me to even come on the platform to, grace your podcast and, give a great message that, we're going to go through our conversation today, mentally during this holiday. Feeling good, feeling good. Holidays can either be, really interesting for people, or it could be the most wonderful time. I'm fortunate it is one of the most wonderful time. I'm spending it with my 8-month son. So it's his first Christmas. My wife of almost 10 years. We're 9 years married. We're going to be 10 years married next year. So, and
Don't forget
that. Can't forget that. Can't forget it at all. So it's our first Christmas, the four of us. Yes, I'm counting my cat as a family member. I don't care if people want to judge me, but it helped us get along the way when it comes to raising our son. Like it just showed us how to take care of somebody else outside of us. So otherwise, though, I'm great mentally during this holiday season. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm existing. I'm living. I'm blessed. I'm good. That I don't usually get that question back when I'm asking that question, but I appreciate it. I'm good. I'm home for Christmas. It's been a up and down year. Had surgery in June. Recuperating, still 6 to 7 months inside of that thing. So I'm good. I'm blessed to be here.
Right.
How do you handle and manage your mental health these days?
Man, one of the greatest things you can do when it comes to managing mental health is acknowledging a problem is afoot, right? Sometimes people don't really like to acknowledge that there's an issue arising or there's something wrong. They just wait till they hit a point where it's like the breaking point. So managing it is just finding good ways and good means to de-stress, right? So for a lot of people, with the holiday season, they may be lacking family. Create your own family, if you will. And when I say create your own family, I mean seek a bunch of, friends, right? There's this new thing that I guess, I don't know how long ago it was created, but like you have Thanksgiving, but then you have people who get together, they call themselves Friendsgiving, right? So finding those similar group of friends and creating a friendsmas, if you will. I don't even know if that's a word that's out there, but
It
like
is now.
so create your own friendsmas, right? Create the memories with people who can help you, and also really just being around other people is great for people's mental health, right? Because a lot of times you can stay locked up in the house and just not want to do anything, and one of the best cures of depression, if you will, is just movement. So getting around other people who are positive, who are doing great things, just getting around them will just be overall good for your mental health. Now that takes a lot of courage, because obviously you have to say, hey, I got this issue, let me address it, let me bring it to somebody's attention. But that's the toughest part out of anything mental health related, admitting to the problem. So that's kind of my biggest tip I'd give there.
I'm glad you said that, because it does take courage, because it's not just the courage, but it's the confidence to admit it to people that's supposed to have been your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start seeing the ones that's not really your friends either talk about you, or you start to weed them out. So
Right.
that necessarily, that in that moment when you're going through something, you see who's important and you see who's not. So you start to uh, make your circle smaller. But at
Right.
the same time, you're defining what your circle should have been in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yes, that's a great point you just made. Um, Tell me who Mr. Johnson is. Who was Mr. Johnson as a child?
Uh, you know, I guess you would say loaded question, but I'm gonna give a fantastic answer because it's my answer, right? So, me, Kemar Johnson, if you will, last name. So, just thinking about it, 31 years young, residing here in New York City, Queens specifically, kind of, not kind of, majority grew up in the Bronx, New York, for those who are aware. The Bronx is also where I met my wife of 10 years, again, next year, but we've been together since high school and we've been together since 2009. So, the math is off for me right now, but 2009 to 2023 and still going, that's how long we've been together. And it's a reason why I mentioned my wife is because I essentially almost kind of grew up with her, if you will, high school sweetheart. So we got together when I was probably 16, when she was 15, and we've been together ever since. We've had a couple breaks here and there, but the reason why, again, when I mention who I am is because she's a part of me and my, life and my upbringing. So, I'd be remiss if I don't, shout her out or mention her when it comes to who I am. She makes me, enables me the title of, saying, I'm her husband. She's my wife. But outside of that, I had a former, professional athletic background. I used to run track and field. I used to run it competitively in high school and college and outside of college for track clubs. So I was a sprinter, and that was anything under, I say 800, 400 meters. That's my love. That's my whole love there. Track is my love. So I hope my son takes up track and field when he grows up, or as he grows up. I'm not going to force it upon him, but I hope he grows up. Um, Avid basketball fan, not into basketball as much as I used to be, but 90s and 2000s basketball, you can't tell me that wasn't the best era. All right. I grew up in it, so to me that was the best era. But I mean, it was just the best, man. I think about like the '05 Pistons,
Yeah,
the
you're right. The Bulls
90s.
won that entire century. So yeah, you're right. The Bulls dominated, except for two titles. But the Bulls, yeah, you're right. You're right. I
Right.
appreciate that.
And then you have the dominant Lakers when it came to Shaq and Kobe
Now you
Bryant,
just
rest
went
in
down.
peace. You gotta acknowledge it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I always tell people too as a basketball joke. I tell them like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Warriors fan." The
Well,
Bay Area, that's on me. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You're not a real Warriors fan if you wasn't a fan during the time of Jason Richardson. Like, if you didn't know about the Warriors then, you can't say you're a Warriors fan now." But that's my little joke that I tell people. Some of them take it like, "Nah, but times change," and I'm like, "No, no, no, no. You gotta respect where it was coming from." But that's all me.
so I do the same thing with the Heat. And I tell them, I said,
Ah,
you're not a real Heat fan if you're not a running Cycling fan or a
see,
Carolina fan, because
see,
that's when the Heat for real has started. That's the team that they started those players. I said,
right.
y'all just became a Heat fan when LeBron them and all them got there. But what about running Cycling and Hermano, Baby Jordan, and all those when the team first started?
Exactly.
I liked them then. I do the same thing for the Warriors, except mine started in '75 when they won their championship. That's also the year I was born. So I'm like, man, who won the championship the year I was born? Okay, that's the team I'm rooting for. But I'm a Bulls fan all day long.
Mm,
Before Jordan them got there, so I can name players from before they got there is when I started liking them. So I do the
mm,
same thing with new age fans that just started liking when they started winning. But yeah, I
right.
do the same thing. So yeah, that's interesting.
And then what more is to me? So, I come from a household of three brothers. I am in the middle esque. So you have my youngest brother, then me, then my two older brothers. So I guess I'm middle esque. And that was a fantastic upbringing. For those who are unaware, so by background, culture, and everything above, 100% Jamaican. I'm doing my best now to like mask an accent. because I can flop between, the proper, I guess if you will say English, and then in the Jamaican tongue dialect, or my mother tongue, if you will, the Patois. So very fluent in both. Have some fluency in Spanish. You really gotta like bring me to a Spanish country or like a Spanish locality, then you'll really see me evolve and change languages. Um, and overall, too, as mentioned earlier, I am prior military. I used to be in the National Guard, so all my active duty guys, all my reserve guys, get the jokes out from now. Sit on your couch and follow me. I get it all. I got it all. Fortunately, I wasn't a weekend warrior because, similar to like you, I was able to sign on with active duty orders. So I was on Title 32 orders. I was doing, honor guard, which is, for my active duty guys, kind of old guard, third ID, if you will, where we're doing a lot of flag folding ceremonies for vets that passed away. So in my time of doing that, I've done about 500 funerals, and I visited every single state. I'm sorry, not state, every single cemetery in New York State. Not exactly an accolade to mention, but just to give everybody like the, idea of how often or how long I was in that type of service and how much of it was an honor to absolutely do those services for the veterans that came before me, the veterans who, just, separated, and even active duty service member who, unfortunately KIA or whatever may have you, I was able to do services for a plethora of Army service members and, Air Force were applicable because for those who don't know, Air Force came from the Army. So, you had Army Air Force and stuff like that. So, I've done plenty of services, met plenty of people, and it's probably the best job I'll ever do in my whole life. So, there's a lot more to unpack and unload, but I kind of want to give, just the smidget of what I kind of define as me.
So that's interesting because I've done uh, funerals in my lifetime too, and it helped me cope with uh, death of my cousin in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
2004, I think it was. And so by me doing the funerals, that was my way to kind of close that gap between me and him because he died overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And so by me doing the funerals, I also was able to be in the empathy, sympathy realm and be able to navigate those waters into what the families was feeling and sometimes understanding, but not necessarily putting myself in their shoes because I still had my own feelings and understandings about what I was going through, but I was still standing in the realm of what they could be going through and what they could be understanding. So, I also understand what you mean by visiting the multiple cemeteries because that's something that's amazing while at the same time saddening because of all those people that's passed. But when you go see all those people that's there, you like, man, I wonder what this person was like. Who I
Mm-hmm.
wonder who that person is. There's a lot of history laying there. And that's just the history that has names on them, not the history that's laying under them that doesn't have names to show. Because back in the
Right.
day, they buried people on top of people on top of people, and it was only the last person that had money that got the tombstone. A
Right.
lot of people only got the rock with no name and a cross. So the stuff y'all see in Western movies, that's real.
Yes.
The cross and the rock is real.
Right.
It's only people that have money that got tombstones. Just
Right.
so you know.
Totally true. Totally true. I mean, nowadays you're seeing cemeteries, like national cemeteries, they're covered by the VA, if you will, in some regard. But now they're having some sort of headstone, the white headstones that are all in a line. So that's good to see that, those veterans that came before us, they're now making a shift, right? Versus, oh yeah, just bury them all on top of each other, and then the last person who has the money, headstone. Like, I'm glad to see that positive change.
And I do a lot of on my podcast. I do a lot of interviews, then I do some history in between it because that history is lost at times, and you don't learn a
Mhm.
lot of it in school. But I say on each one of those episodes, as an adult, you can't get mad at what you don't find out as an adult. You can only get mad at what you don't get for yourself as an adult.
Right.
So that's why I do it because on the podcast, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, it's still there for people to be like, oh, let me find out who this person is. Let me find out who that person is. So I try to not let them be forgotten or not let them still be KIA or MIA. But
Mm-hmm.
when I do that 20, 30 minutes to an hour, then that gives that family, oh, someone's talking about such and such. And if I can't get in touch with the family, I still have the information to talk about Sergeant Johnson. Boom. He did this. He did 500 funerals. It was such a great person to do that, take his time out, do that. And he ended up being this to the media world. But boom, boom, boom. So in the future, they would be like, oh man, I didn't know that. I didn't know you can transition like that.
Right. Right.
How did what brought about the joining of the military?
I feel like everybody always gets asked that question, whether it's at basic training or like post service or whatever.
Before
So
you answer, before you answer, we do get asked that question, and not everybody has an answer.
right. So honestly, I wanted to join from I was 16 years old, right? And but my mother was kind of like, no, I'm not having you join no American Army. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm 16 and what can I really say? And at that time, I wanted to be in the Air Force because I thought Air Force meant like all you do is fly planes and Chinooks and C-130s. I thought that's all they did, like they flew them. Not knowing later that almost every branch except maybe Coast Guard fly their aircraft. But so that's why I just wanted to join just because. Now when I turned 21, because I joined at 21 and I got married at 21, the reason why I joined was because I wanted a challenge. And when I say a challenge, I'm talking about a physical, a mental challenge, because when you're young in your teens, getting into your early 20s, you feel like, no, not feel like, you are at your, like, you're getting to like your peak, your physical peak. And like, I can do everything. I can do anything. So I was like, why don't I just do like the toughest thing that is apparent out there, or the toughest thing that I know, which is, joining the military. So I had a friend of mine, shout out to him, Sergeant First Class Williams. He's probably going to be E8 by the time, this comes out, and then he's probably going to be E9, or he's probably going officer, whatever it is. But shout out to him because I think he's going to get every single rank, enlisted rank out there, and then transition to the officer. But the reason why I bring him up, he's a high school friend who turned a recruiter, and he was an E5 at the time. And he was like, hey, Johnson, what do you ever think about the military? I was like, oh yeah, I don't really want to go because I hear it as soon as you, sign up, you're gonna get deployed and get sent to war, like everybody's always told.
Everybody.
Which is contrary. It's not that simple, and there's actually a lot of steps when it comes to deployment. But he was like, hey man, listen, I can offer you this 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the summer. You're back home. There's no real change to your lifestyle. I said, sounds good. Sign me up. And when it came down to it, he's like, all right, now time for you to take the ASVAB, which is the testing to see what job you qualify for your MOS. And so when I went to do that, I ended up qualifying for a bunch of jobs, and the one job I chose was 11 Bang Bang Infantry. Now, the reason why I chose that is because at the time, it was the shortest basic and AIT or OSUT. And I was like, let me do that because, I didn't really want to be away from a long time because my first year married and my first year in the military, I don't want to spend my first year married away from my wife for X amount of months, even though it turned out to be 6 months I was away. So honestly, I only joined the military because I wanted a physical, mental challenge. I wanted to see how far I can push my limits. So it was just a limit break. I was looking just to see how far I can go. And I'm glad I did it because the camaraderie that you get when it comes to joining the military is paramount. Like you have friends that are now like family. And it's funny, one of my battle buddies or battles, if we say, I ended up creating such a tight relationship with him where he is now the godfather of, my son. And yeah, you can get that from other friends and other family, but that's just to show you the camaraderie, the support is unprofound, where it's just like these people now, I feel like we're locked in for life. We're going from sleeping in tents to now we're battle buddies for life. So, short question, short answer, long answer. I joined it for a challenge, honestly.
It's the answer. because I understand that totally because I'm the uncle to some of my friends' kids and godfather even, and you went from sleeping in tents. I went from sleeping in shelter halves.
Mm-hmm.
So if all y'all that don't know what shelter halves is, you got one half of the tent, and whoever your buddies with got the other half. Y'all put that
Mm-hmm.
together, and you sleep on the ground. So that's how it is. But
Yeah.
the military has been interesting, and it shapes you if you need to be shaped, but only if you allow it yourself to grow. I look back on my 29 years, and I'm like, man, I tell people, I said, I've made a lot of money and I've spent a lot of money, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it's been there for me when I needed it most, and it's been there for me when I really didn't need it. And it all
Absolutely.
depends on you how you use it. Uh, being from Jamaican descent, how
Mm-hmm.
often were you able to go back to Jamaica by being in the military? Because New York isn't that far.
Uh,
So,
about 3.5, 4 hours, if you will.
I mean, but if
Um,
you look at it, I say it isn't that far because for someone, let's say that's in Chicago or Montana, I'm like, oh, I think I want to go to Jamaica. That's farther. For
oh yes.
them, for them in Chicago, let's say they want to drive to Milwaukee or somewhere. Now that's 3 hours, you
Mm,
know, or something like that. It's that's a 3 hour drive. But for you, it's almost like a 3 hour drive where DC to Philly or New York, that's like a 3 hour drive. So
right, right.
it's the oh, it's not that far. That's the thing where it's not that far. But for someone who doesn't go, they're like, man, this guy is it's right down the street for him.
Yeah,
So it's the bodega to you. It's just go to the bodega on the corner.
pretty much, pretty much.
Well, you see Jamaica as the bodega. I see Jamaica as like, man, I got to go on a cruise. I got to get the flight. I got to do this. So it's what is it like going with no problem because it's just there and come back.
I mean, it's convenient. Well, I'm not gonna say convenience. It's I want to say tradition, right? It's a custom, and it's a culture. So Jamaica to me sometimes, I would revere it as like the sixth borough because New York City has five boroughs. I would revere it as a six because it's like, all right, I'm not going to, Staten Island, which is a borough. I'm going to go to Jamaica. So I didn't go to Jamaica as frequent when I was in the service, and also to preface, I was only in for 3 years, active, if you will, and then inactive reserve, I was in for 6 years, 6 or 5, because usually, you sign on for an 8 year obligatory contract. So I was really active for 3 years and an IR for the other. So I only frequented Jamaica once when I was in the military, and that was just to visit my wife's side of family for the first time. So we traveled together. My wife is Jamaican as well. I forgot to mention that. And so we went to go visit her side of family and for me to formally meet her father. So that was one of the biggest things. And that was actually an amazing experience. But it was always growing up, it was always, yeah, we're going to Jamaica usually because, we have family to see. There's a death in the family, unfortunately. That was probably one of the more frequent reasons why people go back home, as we would say, because essentially there's a death in the family, so we have to go to a funeral. Another reason is, oh, it's summertime. Your parents not letting you sit down in the house, doing nothing. They want to send you back home to continue to get to your culture and your roots. And then another thing would be, again, just visiting family for a holiday, if you will. And it was always just second nature. It was always just nice, just getting out of New York. But it's kind of like, oh, I'm going from home to home. So it didn't feel like much of a change. Only thing different was the weather was constantly hot versus, I'm here in the winter, I'm going from jackets to shorts going out there. So, for me, I always just loved it because it was almost like best of both worlds. I always tell, I guess non-Jamaicans, if you will, you're missing out not being Jamaican or being infused in the culture. It's just so full of life, so full of energy. Yes, it has its nuances. Yes, it has its bad moments, but what country, what culture, what ethnic group, if you will, doesn't have, the negative connotations attached to it? You just have to embrace it because this is what you have. And without the bad, you won't understand and value the good. So I love Jamaica. My wife loved Jamaica. We actually just came back a couple short weeks ago from Jamaica. We brought our son for his first time. For him to be out there, and it was a very heartwarming experience because a lot of people looked at him and said, "Is your kid born in Jamaica?" Like the way how he's just accustomed to it, not complaining about the heat, mosquitoes, nothing. The food, the kid blended in fine to the point where I was like, "Yeah, we got to bring him out here more often." Um, so I love Jamaica. I think everybody should visit, go to the tourist area, find a reliable source to go off the tourist area, but don't frequent out the non-tourist area too long, because it could get dangerous depending on where you go. But I love Jamaica, and I just feel like without Jamaica and the island, my wife and I and I'm just sure Jamaicans probably look at it like they don't know who they would be had they not had that upbringing. So that's my take on it.
That's everywhere though. You got to make sure
Hmm.
you know somebody everywhere,
Right,
so you don't go in the wrong neighborhood.
right.
Uh, I have everywhere I go, I know somebody in those cities. I'm like, hey, I'll be there
Yeah.
in 3 or 4 days, and I'll be staying here. And I'm like, and they be like, okay, no problem. We'll hang out. I'm like, all right, cool, because they know what I like to do and they know what I don't like to do, and
Hmm.
also know where to go and where not to go. Even when
Right.
I went to New York 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I knew where to go and where not to go. And so it's just you have to be wary of where to travel and where not to
Right.
travel.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Speaking of the holidays, what would Christmas holidays be like in Jamaica? Because that's where we at right now. So what would the
Right.
holidays be like in Jamaica?
So the holiday in Jamaica, and we were gonna spend the time out there, but for work obligations, I wasn't able to. But my wife was able to spend a little bit more time, but then she came back. But holidays really consist of, there's this, I'm not delicacy. There's this drink that we have that's called sorrel. It's from a plant that is, dried and boiled over a couple of times. I actually make the sorrel myself, and that's usually consumed around the holiday time. So once it kind of hits December, everybody's asking, "Where's the sorrel? Where's the sorrel? Where's the sorrel?" Main ingredient in it is obviously the sorrel, the water, ginger. It depends on the person if they like a lot of ginger with the zing or less zing ginger, and brown sugar or sugar just for the sweetness factor. And then, of course, one of the biggest things people throw in there is liquor, some sort of alcohol. Whether it's rum, it's usually rum that people put in there. I'm not a drinker, so I don't put rum in mine. My wife doesn't drink, so we don't put rum in ours. But a lot of people love to have their rum in it. Also, what is consistent is, you know, so we're not going to get snow in Jamaica, right? You're not going to get snow. If you do, sound the alarm. This has
Yeah,
never happened before.
that's
But
what
you
they
will
said in
see.
LA 2 years ago too.
Oh boy. All right. Um, Kind of scary now thinking about it. um, Holiday time, so you won't really see as much like um decorations as like you will see here in the States. You'll see some more people wearing like the festive colors in some sort of way. A lot of people do frequent what's called like the market, which is just supermarket, just to get a lot of different cooking supplies and cooking essentials because it's like, all right, holiday time, we got to make a big dinner and everybody got to come over and just enjoy. Jamaica also observes two holidays, which is, obviously the Christmas itself, and then you also have Boxing Day. So Boxing Day, for people who are unaware, it's pretty much just like Christmas, just without like the connotation of like Santa Claus, the reindeers and stuff like that. It's more so just like boxing gifts and like exchanging it with each other. So it's kind of like a watered down version of Christmas. So you have majority of Jamaicans celebrate Christmas, and then some of them celebrate Boxing Day. To each his own. It doesn't matter. Um, but holidays is really just like everywhere universally, family coming together, family, and just like having this big festivities. I might be missing something in terms of something else that's incorporated, but I know it's family, sorrow, like sorrow from again December 1st, not even December 1st. Some people go as far as like, late November, just because it's like, all right, it's almost time. Let's go. Let's go. We gotta have this. all the way
Yeah,
up
it's like
until
the
like the new
Christmas
year.
decorations at the store. They start in October now, and they're like, "Oh, let's go ahead and start paying a
They
25%
do.
Christmas fee. So let's go ahead and start putting it up." So yeah,
They
but
do. Yes.
yeah, I always thought Boxing Day was actually boxing, and it's a
Oh no.
Canadian holiday because we reference it as a Canadian holiday because that's what we always hear about. It's a
Yeah.
Canadian holiday. But I never thought it was just about boxing up gifts. I never transitioned the two because I always thought it was because the way it's spelled just like boxing, the sport. So
Right.
I'm like, oh, boxing, the sport has its own holiday, but I never thought about it being about just boxing up gifts. Mm.
Yeah. There might be more to it. It isn't a holiday my wife or I grew up observing. But in terms of what we've noticed from counterparts and other friends and family, that's what we primarily saw that it was. But again, there's probably a bigger backstory to it. I'd love to learn more about it myself, but that's kind of what we see out there.
Hey, we just educated each other on it. So everybody listening, Boxing Day is more than just about the sport. There you go.
And I'm
Different
sure. Oh,
different
God, sorry.
places do different things for those holidays.
Right.
So
And
just don't
yeah.
be sorrowful about it. Be sorrow about it.
Exactly. And I'm sure you'll have people in the comments that will correct me or you. And then you know what? Thank you. I learned when I see your comment in the section. So,
Yes,
that's it.
we appreciate it.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
appreciate
Keep
it.
it positive though. Keep it positive. I
Yeah.
know, some people want to keep it spicy because it's YouTube and internet, but keep it positive.
Yeah, I tell them people if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't even waste your time saying it because I'm gonna delete it. Now,
Facts.
I have that authority. I delete it.
Facts.
Uh, let's advance the times.
Hmm.
You're getting ready to get out of the military. What's your thought process? What's next? Because that's everybody's thought process. Getting out of the military. Man, what do I do next? What do I want to do? What's my bid? What's your vision for what's next?
Great question. And I, being out now X amount of years, I really emphasize people to learn as much as possible about all the benefits you have while being in the service and outside of being in the service. Outside of service is 100% VA related. Obviously, there's some other constituents as well, but primarily VA related. But transitioning out, one of the biggest things is what are you going to do when you get out? So it comes to us, I guess I want to say a stigma where people will stay in longer. They'll do their 10, their 15, their 20 and retire out or get forced out. That's also not talked about. And they'll stay in because, oh, it's the same thing. I know what to do. I got all the power. It's just seamless for me. So
I love my job.
uh,
All
I
that
love
falls
my job.
into it.
Right, right. But usually those are people who reach a certain rank where they're comfortable, right? An E7 or an E8 or an O3 or an O4, whatever it is, right? It kind of just comfortable. But you're in so long where you transition out and it's like, well, what do I do? Right? So that's the dangers of staying in the service very long time. Some people can transition from, if you were, like for instance, for me, 11 Bravo infantry, that can transition to, military. It's not military. Hear me. Security. That could transition
Yeah.
to police. It could transition into, those type of armed guard activities. Now, do you want to do that? It's up to you, but you have to use the skill set, or it's best to use that skill set that you learned in the military and transition to the civilian sector. But for me, I knew I wanted to do nothing related to infantry in any capacity. Why? I was light infantry. For those who don't know light infantry, that means we ruck everywhere. Oh man, it just gave me. I just thought about when I just rucked some miles. We ruck everywhere and we sleep outdoors no matter the temperature in tents, right? Sometimes we have to share a tent because a guy forgot to bring his tent, and I'm like, well, I can't let you sleep out there because then platoon sergeant gonna look at me crazy, or a team leader gonna look at me crazy, squad leader, whatever. So I'm like, we gotta share.
Affecting morale.
Yeah, yeah, and that bring you closer to guys too. Hopefully. But when it came to me transitioning out, I was like, I don't want to do anything remotely related to that. So I stayed away from security. I stayed away from that. Um, I was still young. I got out 24, 25, and I was like, whoa, what do I do? Like, all I know is this hua hua blue cord, cross rifles. Like, what do I do? So I transitioned. I honestly just took a leap of faith and just said, let's just do whatever. I had no plan whatsoever. And I think that worked out for me because I was a little bit younger. If you're older, obviously you can't just do that because you have a lot more responsibilities. But I just leaped out and just said, hey, let's just see what I can do. And that landed me in the renewable energy solar industry. So I started dealing with the operational side of solar panels, 1,000% unrelated to the military and 1,000% unrelated to my MOS. But I just did it. What I took from that was, like most people in the military, you adjust fire. So whatever you decide to do outside of the military, you'll adjust fine. You'll adjust no problem. But what I would say is just kind of jot down the kind of industries you think you'd want to be interested in and then see if it matches up with your MOS to see if you can say, all right, I can take, the skills of being an MP and I can go be police, or I can go be a federal, border agent. So stuff like that. Like, see if it can match up with your career in the service, see if it's something you want to continue doing in the civilian sector, and, kind of taking it from there. So for me, again, I just took a leap of faith and I said, let's just go see what I can do. I applied to a plethora of different jobs and careers. Solar was the career or the industry that picked me up. So I have a love for them because they took me in, no experience in the operations. They said, hey, you're prior military, let's take you. You probably have good leadership skills, like, we'll take you. And I was in the solar industry for about 3 years after I transitioned out of the military.
It's not a bad gig though. I tell people I want the military to sign me on in the NIL deal. They've
Mm,
been having me for so long. Sign me on that to an NIL deal because you already got my name, image, and likeness. After I
hello.
get out, just sign me on to one of those big multi-million-dollar deals. Let me be the face of the company.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Let me be the face of the company. Why waste all that experience? Because you're pretty much wasting all the experience that you have for people that do 15, 20, 30, 40
I'm
years. And
telling
there's no
you.
bonuses. There's no pension. There's nothing for people that do 15 plus years. All the
Right.
money comes from people that does 15 and less. You're giving them all the nothing against them, but you're giving them all those bonuses, everything for them to stay in, but you're losing all that experience for 15 and over.
Oh man, you
Your
you
last
you just oh man.
Yeah, hey, I've been on this. I've been saying that's it because I'm an instructor in the military side. I said, there's no bonuses for people that stay over 20. So what's the compensation? What's the benefit? Uh, Indefinite? Continue to get paid every month. What's the benefit for people over 20? Over
Right.
really, your last one you can get is at 18. If you work your contracts right, then 15, 16, 17, 18 18 years in may be your last one. After
Mm,
that, what do you get? Nothing.
right.
Nothing. You
Right.
don't get any more bonuses. So the NIL deal for over 20 years works out. Uh,
Right.
it, if you sign them on for, let's say, you already got them for indefinite. Let's say you do $60,000 NIL deal for people that hit over 20. Then they staying in another 10 years.
Hmm.
Boom. So, that's extra money in their pocket. That's bonuses. You're giving people 20 to 30 to $40,000 within that 15 years anyway. So why not just do that for people over 20? Then you can transition them to civilian jobs.
Hello. Hello.
Boom. I just
Hello.
solved a bunch of problems. Send me to Capitol Hill.
Hello.
Not that
But
hard.
you know what? It's so interesting because you definitely hit it on the head where, retention bonuses are not really a thing. The only time they'll give you some sort of bonuses to, re-up or extend your contract. And then sometimes that's not even lucrative. It's like, oh, hey, man, listen, we're overseas, let's just get you going for another 2 years and you get to stay over here longer. We don't send you back. Or if you're stateside, hey man, listen, sign on for 6 years and I could probably get you 5 or 10,000. But like you said, once you start to hit over those numbers, they're not offering nothing. They're offering the most money to new enlistees or new enlists, right? Oh, hey man, listen, join the army and we're gonna give you 20,000 upfront plus tuition repayment plus this. And I'm like, you're doing all this to get me in, but what about the retention? So big army can't complain about retention when you're not doing nothing for those that are in. right?
Yep.
Man, see, you just hit it on the head.
Not even well.
Uh,
Let's not just blame the army, the branches period, because there's more than people that's in the army, but the branches period,
right.
and we can speak on this being service people, proud service people ourselves because we've been through it, so we know what it's like. So for the next people that's coming up, why can't you fix that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're handing out all this money to uh, people you want to keep in. Your retention numbers also count for people that's getting out.
Right.
It's not just
Right.
people getting in. Imagine how your numbers would flip if people, let's say 17 years over, you started handing out those same big bonuses. Oh, it's you sign an indefinite contract, you get $30,000 bonus, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 bonus. Plus, you have the possibility to get a civilian job working
Mm-hmm.
at one of your three top choices because they give us top choices when you get ready to deploy whatever job you in. When you do the ASVAB, like you mentioned, you get choices.
Right.
Sign that 60,000 and then pick the three places you would like to retire at.
Mm. Come
Why
on, man.
can't they set us up for success?
Come on, man. Come on, man. See,
If
see,
you
now we
watching
hitting.
this, if you're watching this, sign me up.
See,
Sign me
we
up.
we hitting it. We hitting it, man.
Sign me up.
'Cause it's funny. What when I was transitioning out, obviously they'll do everything in their power. Come on, man, stay in, stay in. What the National Guard or my unit was trying to do at the time, they were saying, and 69th Infantry here in New York, for those who may know or are unaware. So
All of
they
them
was like,
hellfighters, shout out.
what they were trying to do was, so AT was coming up. You're 2 weeks during their summer, and it's never really 2 weeks. It's usually more than that. So a little marketing there. But it was like, hey man, I was like, are you gonna offer a bonus? No, but this summer we're going actually to Australia. Can you imagine going to Australia? Have you ever been? Obviously, no. Come on, this is your opportunity to go free of charge. And I was like, that sounds good, but knowing my light infantry unit, I'm not gonna really have time or have the
To enjoy.
availability. Boom. So I'm going there to work only.
Yep.
Nah, I'm good.
Oh, they
Nah.
give you 2 days. Oh, let's go see the city before you get ready to leave. Oh, let's go see the city, but it's not enough because you're flying in. You take pictures flying in. Once you land at the nice Immaculate Airport, and then you drive 2, 3, 4 hours into the middle of nowhere. You see the
Mhm.
amazing kangaroos. You set up. 3 days are already gone. Then you do all your missions, and then 3 days before you're supposed to leave, you tear down. You drive back to the base. You see the base one day, 2 days. Then you leave. God forsaken early times in the morning, and you're sitting at the freaking airport for middle of midnight, and you don't see nothing.
Come on,
So
man.
all you get to say is, "I've been to Australia.
That's it.
I got a picture with a kangaroo."
That's it.
So
That's it. That's literally it.
yes, I already knew what you were gonna say. Or they hit you with that. Go ahead and sign up for another 5 to 10 years. You get to see Australia. You get to see Africa. You get to see these places, and your unit never goes.
Oh yeah, yeah. False promises. False
Yeah,
promises are
your
heavy.
unit never goes. So
Or another infamous one. Oh man, you want to go to school? We're gonna send you to airborne school. If you never go, we're gonna send you to air assault. We're gonna send you to sapper. We're gonna send you to all these schools, man. Like, come on, man. The German proficiency. We're gonna send you everywhere. And then you re-up, and then we're just like, all right. So where's the school? Oh yeah, you see budgeting. At least in the guard, it's like, yeah, we don't have the budget to send you, but maybe next time. I like,
So I
okay.
can attest, the guards budget goes by the state,
Hmm.
and the reserve budget goes by the Federal Reserve. So the reserves can do a little bit more sometimes, but the guards are budgeted by the state, which means their promotions are also by the state, which sucks.
I'll talk about it. We didn't even talk
Yeah.
about WLC now, which is BLC, where it's like to become an E5 from E4, you got to go to the school. But then again, it's like they'll promise you that, like if you're E5 promotable, they'll be like, sorry, E4 promotable, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna send you to the school. If you re-up, no school. Yeah, it's treacherous, man.
COVID put a lot of stuff on the back burners, but at the same time, it brought a lot of stuff to the forefront.
Mm.
Which brings me to media. How
Mm.
did you get into KAJ Media, the KAJ Media Empire? How did that come
Yes.
about? I know
Yes.
what KAJ means, but if y'all haven't figured it out, that's part of his name. Duh.
Simply said. So it's my full name actually, Kemar Andrew Johnson Media Group, LLC. Also too, so it's not a play around thing. It's a legit entity. So essentially, as mentioned earlier on, I am coming from a content creator background. I have a podcast, me and my wife. It's called It's Relational. And we talk about relationships. We talk about our relationship. We also interview other couples and singles just to hear their nuances on relationship. So essentially what happened was when I say we got pregnant, but it's not really me. When my wife got pregnant, we recorded as much as we could. But once the baby got here, recording went down to a very small minimum naturally. So I already had a team that was working on, my content for me, because as a creator, the toughest part is creating, scripting,
Editing.
and then editing. So I was like, man, how can I eliminate one of these pain points? So I created a team that edited my content. Now, what happened after, again, we had our son, I was still pushing out content that was already made, or I was, rehashed, reused, repurposed. And a lot of people always DM me, man, your reels, your shorts, your TikToks, they look fantastic. How do you do it? I was like, oh, I have a team that does it for me, and they're pretty awesome and stuff like that. But it started to get repetitive on how many people kept asking me, where's your team at? Can you help me? This and that. And I was like, all right, if there's a demand here, why don't I take the demand and actually create a business out of it? So take the same team that's editing the content, whether it's myself or my other teammates, why don't we create a whole business entity and help people edit their content? Now, I come from a creator standpoint, so I already know the pain points. I can imagine other creators, especially if they're small, I'm not gonna say smaller, up and coming, or already reach a certain plateau. Like, I know the pain is the same no matter whom they are. So I was like, create a business and help other creators because they need the help, or if they want. Because some creators, I know some large creators, and they're like, oh, I still want to edit my own content. Fantastic. I know some new creators that get in and like, this is a lot, I don't want to do it. Shout outs to no promotion, no backing, financial backing, but Think Media. If you are a creator, look into Think Media on YouTube. vidIQ is another one. One of the biggest things they taught or said is the problem with a lot of creators when it comes to scaling is they don't know when to delegate, when to divvy up other tasks. Yes, you want to be in the forefront of anything, but you can't be the face and 100% behind everything. So they're the ones who really put that idea of, for me, to like knowing when to divvy up the content earlier, to disperse other persons to do the content. So shout out to Think Media and vidIQ for that tip. But I created that in, I want to say, May of this year. And I've worked with all type of creators, up and coming, large established creators. There's no discrimination on creators because everybody needs help. So creating that within my agency, our media group, we focus on short form, long form content. We focus on social media management because that's another pain point, because posting on social media can feel like a job. We also help with thumbnails and just overall, not so much. We're getting into, I would want to say, SEO, but SEO is like an ever evolving situation. SEO is search engine optimizer for those who aren't aware, but it's always ever changing. But for the in the meantime, we focus on, like I said, the reels, the short form, the long form, thumbnail creation, and social media management. That's what we've really been hitting on, and we've realized it's been helping a lot of creators, help them create. So that's how KAJ Media, KAJ Media, whomever, however people want to pronounce it, just know that I'm here for you. That's how we operate, and I'm the owner, founder, CEO, whatever you may call it. That is me. So that's my media group, and my ultimate goal, so I can put this out there to the universe, to everybody out there to listening. My goal for my agency is to one day edit a long, actual theatrical film. So something that is advertised in big theaters, big box office. I would love for my agency to be the one to say at the end, maybe not produce, or maybe produced by Cadge Media Group LLC. That's my ultimate goal with my agency.
Name being the credits.
Yes.
I foresee your name being in the credits on not just those theatrical movies, but everything going forward, because it is a possibility.
Absolutely.
That's the vision you have to have for yourself.
Thank you.
That's how we got connected, because you had sent me a message on Instagram. And the thing about Instagram, for all of you creators to know, is you never really know who's who, because there's a lot of different people that come through the DMs. I'd say they slide in just like the slide is free. And so you should do your due diligence to make sure the person is the person. I do all of my I don't do all of my research. I have another person that does research, not for me but with me. So when I have something that I can't get reach of, I'll send it to that person, and then they send it back to me, and then I'll put it out.
Right.
But when I got in touch with Mr. Johnson here, I saw the DMs, and I get DMs just like everybody else get DMs, especially when you a podcaster, content creator. There's always people trying to get you to be an ambassador or something. It's not the person that's the actual person for this stuff. It's someone else saying, "Hey, get in touch with this person." I'm like, nope. Right. Delete. And so once you start seeing people creating things and they're doing that's the actual person, then you start looking like, okay, let me talk to this person. So I send him a message. I say, hey, would you like to be on the show? And here we are. We're on the show. We're talking about things. So you have to do your due diligence. You just can't take the first person that says, boom, let's talk. Because I've sent messages to people like, hey, I like your content. Would you like to be on the show? I host this show. I do my own research. I love to collaborate with you. I love to talk about this, love to talk about that. Professional messages, which people get professional messages all the time. And I have the concept that it's only going to happen when it's supposed to happen, not before, not after. When exactly it's supposed to happen is when it's going to happen. And that's how I operate. I love good conversations. Being a podcaster yourself, how do you reach out to people that you particularly want to conversate with? What is it like when you reach out to, let's throw a name out. Let's say you want to talk to Denzel. Denzel said, hey, I'm taking interviews right now. You would send him a message, but he never respond back. For you, what is that like when you don't get the response back and you sent the message out?
All right. So I'm glad you asked this question, because if you're a podcaster, if you're someone who does interviews, this is something you're going to be faced with a lot. So I want to focus this really good. So one, your follow-up game has to be epic, or you have to be afraid you can't be afraid to follow up. So you send one email or a DM or whatever may have you, it bounce in terms of, it got there, but no response, send another one, right? I say become fearless when it comes to reaching out to people. It does not matter the stature of the people at all. Social media is just social media. Yes, they may have X amount of followers and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they put on the shirt same as you, they put on pants same as you. So have no fear when it comes to reaching out to all type of persons. So I always send, at least 2 emails, and I send a third one. Now I kind of get to a point where I'm like, all right, I sent you 3, you didn't respond to any. I kind of just leave it alone. But I don't just leave it alone in terms of like, oh, I didn't hear back, so I'm just done. Like, if this person reaches back out to me, I'm done. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. I send a maximum 3 emails, just because at least I can say the first one may have not got to you. The second one may have went to your spam. The third one for sure got to you. And if you get back to me, cool. But I move on. I don't dwell on it. I don't harp on it. I move on after the third one. And I say this because I reach out to, just like you, I reach out to a plethora of people to get onto my podcast. And I don't even reserve my wife to do that. I do that myself because, you know, rejection also could be there because they'll probably look at you say, let me look at your content. It looks good, but you don't have the numbers that I want for me to entertain this. And I'm
Yep.
like, cool. I've gotten that before. And I was like, all right, cool. Just know that as it continues to grow and rise, and once you see a trend, if you come back, I still have that DM or that email thread where you said my numbers didn't appease you, so you don't want to be on. Don't try to come back later. Because I've
The
had somebody,
receipts, as
yes,
they call it.
yes, I've had somebody do that to me, and I said, I'll get back to you. And I never got back to them because look how you did me. Now, I also go back to my fearless comment because I have I do not care. Blue check, whatever number of followers, I reach out. Shout outs to, she's I guess a world-renowned sex therapist, if you will. Her name is Dr. Tara. She has 2 million followers on TikTok, 100-something thousand followers on Instagram. But I learned about her from TikTok. I reached out to her and I did an episode with her because she responded back. Now, I found out later on it was her assistant, but still, I sent somebody who has 2 million followers and not like an inorganic 2 million. Like you can see it's legit 2 million with her page. And she responded and we did an episode and it was fantastic. Now, that took a lot of courage because you look at somebody like, oh man, he got a lot of followers. He probably get a lot of DMs, emails, but shoot your shot. Hey, you never know. As a lot of would say here in New York, hey, you never know. Hey, you never know. So doing that interview was fantastic. I got some other creators that I reached out to that we're in the process of building something. But reach out. Don't be afraid. Just make sure your initial message that you sent out is as formal as possible. Don't come in there thinking like, yo, my man, what's good? You know, I appreciate seeing your content. Like, we're not boys and we're not sisters. We're not homies in any type of way. So come off respectful. You know, hi, Chris, great day to you. Hope all is great with you. I recently came across your content and I've been a follower for some time. You know, I figured being that I'm in the same sphere of content as you, I wanted to bring you on as an esteemed guest. You know, let me know your openness to that. I never ask people if they're interested. I ask if they're open to it. Because if you're interested, it's no, and it sounds salesy. That's me personally. So I always say, hey, are you open to that idea of collaboration? Feel free to get back to me at a time that is best fitting for you, and we can set something up. So all in all, don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. Don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. All they can say is no or not respond to you. That's it.
That's true. I look forward to collaborating with you.
Right.
Because I'm looking forward to it. That way,
Right.
when they read that, they be like, oh man, this is going to be powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
so words like, you have to be cautious of your verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Because your verbiage sets you up for success, and it also sets up the episode for success.
Correct.
Also, a few things to add on to what Mr. Johnson just said. If y'all notice, you've watched my podcast, you watch my videos, or listen to any of my shows, always refer to my guests as Mr. and Mrs. No matter who it is. They always tell me that I don't have to, but just for me, it's still Mr. or Mrs., whoever I'm talking to. That's just the gentleman inside of me to where I do that. So that's setting the tone for, oh man, when I get on this guy's show, it's going to be, we
Right.
are having a conversation.
Right.
I say we are having a conversation because you have to know how to conversate past your own limits, which means we're talking to each other, not talking at each other. Because
Right.
I can sit here and just ask them questions and shoot questions and shoot questions and shoot questions. But that's more of what you would see on the news channels.
Mm-hmm.
But to have an effective podcast, you have to allow yourself to be you, which allows your guests to be them.
Right. Right.
So
Totally correct. Totally correct.
you also have those guests who don't know how to breathe. And sometimes you have to know how to play the double dutch. And you playing the double dutch, you just got to get in there, and
Yep.
it ain't being rude. Sometimes you like, hey, what about? But don't be the one that just be. Then
Yep.
like, all right, wait for your turn. Don't let them take over your set. So while they're talking, listen, prepare to ask that question. Uh, I'm just a conversationalist, so I like
That's
to
it.
listen, and then I transition well, and it sets up the tone for everything that I want the conversation to be. Because most of my sets on my podcast when I have a guest is I want the people to know who the person I'm talking to is,
Right.
while at the same time elevating both of us, not just me, not just him or her, but both of us, because that's why I do it, because I know what it was like when people didn't want to take those DMs. I
Mm-hmm.
have people that don't want to take those DMs. And I send, well, I sent him, I said, he used some of the words that I sent him. Hey, how's it going? I'm interested in having a conversation with you, because he sent me one, I sent him one back. I have a show that would be great for us. Boom.
Right.
Well,
Right.
then we replied to each other. So, that's the interesting part of podcasting. If you're not ready to do the background work, you're not ready to do the on camera work.
There we go.
And the part where he mentioned a team, it's different when you have a team,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different when you have a team that's ready to work to benefit you all.
Right.
Don't let that go over your head,
Mm-hmm.
because your team could be there until it's their time to shine. And then some teams are there because you all can shine.
Boom.
Remember, the sun don't tell the stars stop shining. They all shine at
There we
one time.
go.
So y'all can either be the universe, or you can just be on a planet. Boom, let all that sink in.
There we go.
All that sink in.
That's a
Uh,
moment. That's a moment.
yeah, it is. They always get them when they come here.
That's
They
right.
always get them when they come here. Um,
Do you mind if I go back to because the mind the thought is in my mind, and I don't know how much I can spread this ministry or this gospel, but I want to go back to being in the service and transitioning out, and let's say you're out already. I want a lot of service members to while they're in, so I gotta like preface this, and while they're in, if in fact you do get hurt, go to sick call, go to medics, go whatever, please, for the love of everything, go there. And I'll preface that with that transitions to, if you got hurt in the service, you claim that later with the VA, Veteran Affairs, because you can collect what's called, disability. And that comes in handy because that's tax-free money. Obviously, in some sort of way, you got to go through the ringers to
yeah,
get your benefits, because they're gonna look at you like, "Oh, you broke your arm while using the military? That's not service connected." I Yeah, I have my own qualms about the VA, but fight the battle, because I personally feel every single service member, as long as they didn't go AWOL, is deserving of 100% disability. My philosophy, people can come at me, say all they want. Yes, I'll take it. But I feel like everybody deserves 100% of VA disability, in terms of what they went through, because there's a lot of silent battles people went through that they're not talking about. There's a lot of physical battles people went through. I've heard some crazy stories, whether it's people in the Navy on the ships, whether it's people in the Army overseas. We hear some of the stories, not all, because JAG office do their part to try to suppress all that media that gets out. But
yep,
it is a lot that goes out there. So go for your VA benefits, your disability. Use your VA loan if it's applicable to. If more, I think now it's kind of applicable to a lot of people. Use your VRE, which is your education bonus if you exhaust your post 9/11 Montgomery GI Bill. Use all your benefits. Ask all these facilities that you go to, do they offer a military discount, right? Ask these facilities, oh, do you do anything for vets? Like, ask these questions and use these things to your advantage. There's still a lot of benefits out there that I'm unaware of, that I'm still learning, and I'm out 10 years. Some states have tax-free benefits if you're a certain percentage disabled,
100.
or
It's
100%.
Yeah, most states is you get free you get from the VA. You have to be some states is 80 to 100% you get free dental, but everything else is free.
Mm-hmm.
Some states is 60 to 100% you get free uh, property tax.
There you
So
go.
it's different. Some states is 60 to 100% you get uh, free educational benefits,
Yes.
and it's a bunch of different benefits depending on where your state is. So Texas, Florida, Nevada, Washington State, I believe, and
I think you said Florida. I think
West
Georgia.
Virginia. Georgia may be the other one, but it's
Mm,
like it's a handful of states that give you the most benefits.
right.
And he's correct about that. For all of you soldiers that are in now, it's easier for you because the VA and the military talks to one another. The systems
Yes.
are connected.
Yes.
Versus pre 2017,
Right.
you have to have your paperwork. What I will add to that is everything that happens to you after the military, you can go to the VA, but you have to go to sick call while you're in the military. And don't be the one that's bullied, because that's pretty much what it is, or pressured into a mental health situation. Uh, like he said, 11 Bravos and those infantry people are pretty much told you got to be tougher than that, so they don't go. I've talked to people. They were like, I wish I would have went to the clinic when I was in. Even people that's in now, I wish I would have went to the clinic to get this taken care of. So what you waiting on? If it's still hurting, you're still in. Go,
Hello.
go.
Hello.
That's
Hello.
all you gotta do. Let's go. Go talk to the doc before you get out.
Hello. And then the greatest thing too is, um, I wish I knew this before, but if you're about a year away from separating, at that point you could start putting in your claims in with the VA disability. I helped one of my battles do it the other day. I won't name his name, but he came off of deployment, and they was like, "Hey, you should put in some claims," and I helped him with some of the claims that he went through. And one, it processes faster because you're still, active transitioning out. So like you said, they communicate, so you don't have to worry about, oh yeah, I've been out for 10 years. Now I got to grab this document here, this document here. It's still doable, but it's easier when you're in. But all in all, I helped him, suggested that for him, and he ended up walking away with 100% right out the bat. And now his life is forever changed because of that. Now he went through legit, that's another thing, legit injuries, legit issues, because there's some um fibbing that a lot of people do with some of their disability, if you will. But he went through legit issues, and again awarded 100% very easy, just because he did it while transitioning out of active duty. So big cheat code there. Don't wait until you're out to put in your claims. Do it now, or while you're in. Or you can even do it if you're in the National Guard, or even reserve. You can still put in claims while you're still inactive. You just have to tell your admin, hey, I'm collecting VA disability. I no longer want drill pay, so please do not pay me for drill, and collect your disability while you're being in, and then just accrue your retirement points. Yeah,
So
accrue your
here's the
retirement
thing about that. Make sure you
points.
keep your paperwork, because even though the VA is collecting that money back, the military still paid you. Make sure you keep that paperwork so they don't come back saying you owe them a debt.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it.
Because, like I said, you remember me saying they should set you up for success. This
Yes.
is the part of that window where there is no success, because student loans are getting forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Why soldier debts can't be forgiven? Hmm.
Talk about it. Talk
I
about
don't
it.
want to go. I don't want to go no further.
Talk about it.
While I'm taking a quick pause, I'm gonna do this ad break. This ad is being brought to you. This show is being brought to you by Coolers with Water, or Coolers with Liquid. They keep your drinks cold and they keep your drinks hot. Just as long as you keep some type of drink in it, you will always be satisfied. In the media group.
Good question. So I have, and you know, to also put it out there too, they're remote workers and they don't reside in the New York City area, but I have one, two, about four workers, I would say I have that work with me regularly. Five, sorry, five.
So you say they're not remote workers, so they're from different states or just different parts of New York State?
So they're from different states.
Okay.
They're not local to New York. So that's why when I say remote, of course you would love to have people who are, you know, working side by side with you, but you know, the reality of things, you know, COVID definitely shed light that remote is a thing. So, you know, for all of my big companies, hopefully they're listening. Remote is a thing. Yes, you lost out on real estate, but remote workers still do the job. So give them a little break.
That's probably the best thing too, because that allows them to still go out and see different things and bring back to the group itself. Like, hey, I saw this different uh, piece of equipment today. You know, it may be great for the business that we have, but you know, the funds are here, and you know, and then someone will like, well, I saw this way to create more funds for the group, so that will allow us to get this. So that's great that people work in different areas because it brings different ideas in. If everybody was in the New York area, not that they won't have different ideas, but from being from different parts of the world, it brings in a lot of different cultural ideas. So
Right.
that's the benefit of it. So being in what is called the birthplace of hip hop, what let's do a little musical references here. Uh Top five, right off. What's your top five? You know, and New Yorker as yourself, you're gonna be getting your New York card taken if you don't give a top five.
Oh man. So,
And I even
unfortunately,
help you out. You can do any generation. I don't really care what top five it is because it's your top five. I'm not
of
one of those
course.
like, how you gonna do that as top five? Whatever generation you want to do. Let's go top five in uh hip hop music, if that
Oh,
helps you.
okay. I would say top of the list is they may not be New York based, but the top of the list for me is Notorious B.I.G. Biggie, if you will. He's top of the list for me. Yeah, hip hop, rap, whatever, but intertwined. So I would say I always switch between Tupac and Biggie, and it sucks that you know they passed so early because I don't know if we would have got to see the rest of their work and how that would evolve. So you know that's unfortunate for me. But another so between those two, the third again not a New York rapper or hip hop artist, but would be Lil Wayne. But
Okay.
an actual New York rapper on the list for me is Styles P. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Styles P a few times, being that he resides in the Yonkers area of New York. He still resides in New York. Um,
Mr. Health Guru.
oh yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, he's all about it.
Pharmacy life. I think it's what
Oh
it
yeah,
is. It
yeah,
pharmacy life?
pharmacy
Yeah.
for life, pharmacy for
Yeah.
life. Yeah. Um, Another one now going down the list in New York. After
So,
Styles,
so you chose Styles P and not the locks, but Styles P.
I mean, Jadakiss was my guy too. You know, Sheik Louch was there, but like I always frequent like Styles first and then Jada after. I think whenever I think of Jadakiss, obviously you think of the infamous laugh, right? There's no
Yeah.
other choice. But
Which was
I
an
always
accident that he said.
something else that comes to mind with him was I don't know why I always reference this. There's a million and one songs he has, but I always reference the song where he dissed 50 Cent called Checkmate. I don't know why I always reference that, but for some reason I think it's one of his best moments, if you will. But actually, you know what? The artists are coming back to mind. They're coming back to mind. So let me keep it all New York based because I feel like when I said Tupac, that's you know it was all over the place. But
So now let me help you out because technically Tupac is New York based, but he's actually from Oakland, but he
Right,
moved to New York. So
right,
people, they need to know the history of Tupac when they talk about Tupac. He's from Cali, but he moved to Oakland because of his mom. They moved to the Bronx, New York area. Then they moved back to Cali.
right.
So he did a lot of moving with his mom. So he did a lot of growing up in California and New York. So his East Coast West Coast rivalry wasn't an East Coast West Coast rivalry because he has roots in both places. So
Exactly.
you're allowed to say Tupac as an East Coast because he actually grew up there, but his rap didn't start there.
Right, right.
So
But when people look at like Tupac versus Biggie, they'll say East
yeah,
versus West. So, for those people, I'll
those are the
appease.
ones who don't know history. So
I'll appease though.
yeah,
Um, so, all right, without any numerical order, kind of bringing it back, I would definitely say Fabulous is in that mix.
okay,
Brooklyn
yep,
rapper,
yep.
Brooklyn rapper. I never really fancied. Some people gonna throw tomatoes at me. Jay-Z. I never really saw him as like,
Hawaiian
yo,
Sookie fame.
yeah. I was like, nah, he's not really. To me, like he had a couple good songs, but no, 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 no.
You ain't got
I
to
wouldn't
explain.
say.
I'm with you. I'm
Because
with
I
you.
have a friend of mine who's like, Jay-Z is the best thing ever. I'm like, no. But so I have Fabulous, Biggie. I guess I'll say the Locks. I'll just put them all together. Um, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Wu-Tang Clan. Staten Island Boys. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them.
So
Um,
let me ask: is it the small Wu Tang Clan or the big Wu Tang Clan? Because it's
small,
like 13. Okay,
small, small,
the
small.
ODB Wu Tang Clan.
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah,
see, see. You throwing names that people don't even know who is that.
yeah. The ODB Wu Tang. That's why I said the small Wu Tang Clan or the big Wu Tang. You talking about the ODB Wu Tang Clan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Method Man, Redman.
The
Uh,
originals. Inspector Dick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
There's a
Where's it?
Ghostface. Yeah.
Ghostface Killer, man. Ooh. So Fabulous, Biggie, just Wu-Tang Clan, just as a group, the Locks as a group. And you, I grew up with it. So, and I also paying homage. Terror Squad. So that's Fat Joe. That whole crew, Big Pun. I have to mention them because it's Bronx. BX all day. I have to mention them. And then honorable mention, but needs to be mentioned, the Murder Inc. family. So Ja Rule. Ja Rule. Ja Rule had people could say what they want, and then 50 Cent and G Unit. I gotta mention. I was like, man, my list. I think you should have gave me top 10, top five. Now I'm trying to figure out top five, and I'm just like,
Well,
ah.
you already on 7, so you might as well go ahead and do 10. And I'm feeling disrespected because you haven't mentioned Mr. Queensboro, but you mentioned Murder Inc.
I
So
was getting there. I was getting there. I was getting
you
there.
should have mentioned his name before you said Ja Rule. That's what I'm
It's
like.
true.
That's what
It's true.
people gonna throw tomatoes at you. He said Ja Rule before he said Nas. Are you
No, no, no. So it ain't hard to tell I excelled in Prevail. Like I gotta mention Nas. Queens get the. I was supposed to, but my mind is jaded right now. But
That's
Nas,
okay.
Nas
Yeah.
got it. I know I am. Nas was just. See, the reason why I feel like people don't. Nah. Nas was it, man. I love Nas, man. Like, there's maybe not a day that go by that I don't play Nas. And so many different tracks. I remember he caught a little flack when he dropped his Hip Hop Is Dead. Probably still catching it every now and then today, but like, look at what he was saying and kind of just think
Yep.
about what he was saying.
That's what I was
Boom.
about to say.
Yeah, like,
It's what he was saying, not what because they only read the title. They didn't really hear what he was saying.
right. Um, and so Nas is just like, he's the man, So there's so many songs. Like, if you play it right now, I'm singing the whole song, just because Nas is the man, So I think I went through my name. So my top 10, cause I was told 5, but I went in. Nas always had the bar, so I was always a fan of Nas, and of course the Ether, Nas, Biggie, um, the G Unit crew, but I can't really say G Unit because they're not all from New York. So that really consists of 50
Oh, you talking
Banks.
about the original G Unit, which is
Yeah.
50 Lloyd, Yayo, and that's it.
Yeah, I think Yayo's from New York. I can't remember if he's from New York. I know Buck wasn't from New York.
Yeah, I didn't even name him. I was like, the original is
Right,
50, Yayo, and Banks. Those are the
right,
original three.
right. So
Because
them
Buck is
as a
from
crew,
Tennessee.
exactly. So them, and then of course I know I didn't mention Dipset, diplomats, if you will. The Jewels, Cameron. They had a hold on the game themselves too. So you got to acknowledge that they had a hold on the game. Everybody Dipset. We fly high with Jim Jones. Max B. Come home soon.
Yeah.
Max B. Come home soon. So so my top 10 would be like I said. So Biggie, Nas, Fabulous, G Unit, the original G Unit, Wu Tang, the small the small crew, Dipset, Diplomats, Ja Rule, Murder Inc. Um, who else am I thinking of?
Rough Riders.
See,
So you
it's just
know
so much. Rough
what I'm
Riders,
saying.
DMX, RP.
If you replace the locks with Rough Riders, that gives you DMX.
Right. Oh
And
man.
then it also gives you several other groups too, because the Rough Riders encompass a lot of people. So
Right.
that's like Wu Tang. That does because when you say Wu Tang, then you don't have to say Method Man, Raekwon. You don't have to say all of them because you're including them. Just like G Unit, you don't have to say Lloyd and 50 because you got both of them. So that's why I say Rough Riders. Then that gives you DMX
Right. Right.
and
I
and
mean,
and Drag On, because Drag On, he had that
drag
one
on. Yep.
album, or two albums, but still, uh, I don't know if Eve is from New York area, but still,
I don't remember either. Rough
she was a
Riders.
big part of the Rough Riders group because she was the female in that group. So
Right.
that's just like saying Murder Inc. and Ashanti. So
Right.
that gives you. I mean, that would be your top 10 because now you've included pretty much a lot of the
Uh-oh. Hold on.
New York
Someone just woke
areas.
up. Hold on.
That has been a great show today. I appreciate Mr. Kemar Johnson for joining us today. You'll probably see more of him in the future. You'll see more of me in the future. We'll be sharing content on each other's stuff. Mr. Johnson, tell everybody where they can reach you at.
So I could be found on YouTube at itsrelational.co. I could be found on Instagram, instagration.co. And also you can find me on Instagram, KAJ Media Group. That's the agency. And then my personal handle on Instagram is Kemar underscore 3 underscores. And we go from there.
All
Oh
right.
man, he's going in.
Appreciate you coming on the show today. For all the rest of you, we'll bless you all later.
Thank you for having me.